Imagine making $1 million before turning 30. We're going to sit down with the young CEO who did just that. He runs Fisher Capital. It's a retailer for gold and silver, and he says that investment is a smart one. Alexander, I'm so excited to sit down and talk with you because we're going to talk about making some money today. Let's talk a little bit about your company, Fisher Capital. Tell me what exactly it is that you do.
Sure. Fisher Capital was set up with the intention of helping as many Americans diversify their wealth outside of traditional investments. We primarily focus on helping our clients acquire physical gold and silver and diversify their portfolio out of the stock market.
So what are you seeing in the gold market right now? Because this is something I've kind of paid attention to, but haven't really honed in on.
You know, it's an extraordinary time for precious metals. In fact, over the past 4 days, we've seen gold jump about $50 a day.
Wow.
You definitely see a response directly from what's happening in the economy. Right now, we have a lot of warnings coming from top experts, like Mike Wilson, for example, is the chief investment officer, of Morgan Stanley. He predicted a 26% downturn. You've got David Rosenberg. He was a former economist for Merrill Lynch, talking about a 30% drop this year. And then, of course, you've now seen 2 major banks fail. So all these different factors, leading up to this point, definitely echo some of the same signs we saw during the last financial crisis. And during that period of time, we saw gold do extremely well.
So if somebody comes to you and they do want to learn more about investing their money and either getting physical gold, or do you handle it? Do you keep it with you? How does this whole transaction work?
It's a great question. We ship to clients directly. So there's 2 ways you can buy gold and silver. You can do that inside of a retirement account, or you can actually make a direct purchase and have that delivered to your doorstep. You can also have the gold and silver stored in a depository institution if you're not comfortable having it at home. Depositories are great. You can have your gold and silver insured with up to $1 billion in liabilities. So for people who are concerned that have a threshold past the FDIC insurable limit for their bank deposits, it's a really good option to give them an extra level of peace of mind, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's talk about what you're seeing globally, because there's been talks of Russia and China moving to a gold standard. What's your opinion on that? What do we need to be aware of?
I'm definitely concerned about that. I think their goal is to ultimately throw the U.S. dollar, and they've been unsuccessful convincing other countries to take their sovereign currencies in place of the U.S. dollar. So I think that gold is really an entry point for them to do that. It's not just China and Russia, it's the BRICS nations as a whole. So these countries are ready to, launch a new global reserve, and it's definitely possible you could see it back with gold.
I hear that, and I think that sounds scary. What does this mean for Americans?
Well, right now, Americans have a unique opportunity because there's a lot of signs that are kind of pointing to the direction that these worst case scenarios actually could take effect. So if you couple the risk of an economic downturn, especially in the stock market, and then you combine that with, the threat of another world reserve currency taking advantage of that situation to throw the U.S. dollar, ultimately you could see the U.S. dollar depreciate significantly. So, diversifying into physical assets is definitely something that can protect you from some of those things, and Fisher Capital is prepared to help our clients do that.
We've talked about gold specifically. Any thoughts on silver? Is that another safe option for people?
A lot of experts see a higher potential in silver. If you look at where silver is from where it's historically been, it's a lot farther from its all-time high than where gold is. So silver is also used in much wider for industrial purposes. You see that in cell phones, tablets, computers, medical equipment. You also see it in solar panels, which is huge right now. Automobile industry uses a lot of it. So there's a lot wider use cases for silver. I think that silver is great if you're looking for something more fungible and fractional. An ounce of silver today is trading around $22, whereas gold is closer to $2,000.